UFC Fight Night Shanghai, Walker versus Zhang just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. We're going to start straight away, though, with the early prelim opener of Uran Satybaldiev versus Diyar Nurgozhay. This fight started with Diyar Nurgozhay landing a couple of decent shots on the feet. I think he got a takedown at one point as well. That might have been after the knockdown from Uran Satybaldiev, who put him down with a nasty right hand. And I think Diyar Nurgozhay actually shot the takedown to survive the knockdown from Uran Satybaldiev, who put him down really badly in round one. By the way, Uran Satybaldiev looks like a massive light heavyweight, an absolutely massive light heavyweight. Eventually he pulls off the Kimura. No, he doesn't. He goes for a Kimura, reverses position on Diyar Nurgozhay with the Kimura, and then he ends up in full guard on top, and Ezekiel chokes Diyar Nurgozhay in round one. Really nasty submission win for Uran Satybaldiev. Drops Diyar, gets taken down by him as Diyar scrambles to get into the fight and stay in the fight. Kimura's a reversal onto top position, and then takes top position with full guard, and Ezekiel chokes Diyar Nurgozhay from top position. Crazy. Normally you would see like an Ezekiel choke from like a Alexei Olenek, and he might be on bottom, which is a better spot to be in, as you can get a little bit tighter with your opponent, or he would be in mount against his opponent, and he could get that squeeze. But Uran Satybaldiev, I guess his torso is that long that he can pull that off from full guard on top. Really nasty stuff from Uran Satybaldiev. He gets the Ezekiel choke in round one. We don't see many of them very often, so I wonder if they gave him a bonus. I actually do wonder if they gave him a bonus, because that's like near Twister level being pulled off, right? An Ezekiel choke. I'm just going to check that real quick live. They haven't given out any of the performance bonuses yet. I don't know. Either way, we'll find out at the end. Rongzhu versus Suyuong. Rongzhu versus Suyuong. I went with Suyuong, and I took him to win this fight by... I don't know how, I think I said decision, 29-28. He won the fight based on that, really. I think Rongzhu had some good moments later in the fight as it went on. I actually think this was a closer fight than the unanimous decision would suggest, because this was a very close fight, and Zhao Long did do good as the fight goes on. It was a very close first round. It was a clear second round to Young, and in the third round, I thought went to Rongzhu. I'm going to get a lot of names mixed up here. I'm sorry. But, yeah, really good performance. Decent scrap between the two of them. Wasn't the best, but Rongzhu had a lot of volume in the fight. And it didn't end up paying off for him. I don't know how to feel about that decision. I wasn't watching it too closely. I was setting up the stream, but I thought that could have gone either way, to be honest with you. So, Suyuong wins. Good for him. We move on. Yizha versus Westin Wilson. I went with Yizha by KO in the first round over Westin Wilson. There's certain fighters I just won't pick to win fights. Walker's one of them. We'll talk about the main event in a second. But Westin Wilson is another one. Just certain fighters I can't pick to win fights because I know they're not going to. And Yizha puts him away in the first round, 37 seconds in. Immediately knocks him out and puts him down once, puts him down again. 2 knockdowns, follow-up shots afterwards. Just parliamentary procedure from Yizha. Goes out there and handles Westin Wilson in a way that you should handle Westin Wilson. In fact, kind of makes Gene Silver's Westin Wilson performance not look too good. I know he also KO'd Westin Wilson in round one, but Gene Silver didn't do it under a minute. So maybe this guy Yizha is actually really good. So that was another correct prediction from me on the prelims. We move on. Michel Pereira versus Kyle Daukaus. I went with Michel Pereira. Kyle Daukaus taking this fight on short notice. Got cut from the UFC a few years ago. Has worked his way back against some mid-competition on the regional scene. Hasn't looked the best against him. Hasn't looked the best against some of those guys. And comes back in on short notice and beats Michel Pereira in round one by KO. Did not see that one coming. Respect to Kyle Daukaus. The Daukaus bros are back in town, I guess. If there's one way of beating the Caucus guys, we're going to have to bring in the Daukaus dogs, okay? That's what's going to have to happen. But Michel Pereira, round one, looking sharp, looking clean, landing a lot of shots to the body on Daukaus. He landed more than 2 significant strikes. I don't know why they're lying about the stats. He definitely landed more than 2 significant strikes this fight. And I definitely think Daukaus landed more than 5. What the fuck are these stats? Anyway, he did not land 5 strikes on Pereira. Anyway, maybe he did. I don't know, actually. Maybe they were 4 follow-up elbows in that one right hand. Maybe he didn't land anything else. Either way, round 1 starts. Michel Pereira is looking fast, explosive. Bisping is talking on the commentary about how Daukaus is not explosive or fast. And boom, Daukaus catches Michel Pereira floating around back to the open part of the octagon. He gets back to the center. What the fuck am I saying? Michel Pereira is floating back to the center of the octagon after being backed up, and he's got his hands by his waist, chin up in the air. Daukaus catches him with a right hook right on the jaw. Spins him, puts him down. Michel Pereira tries to recover. Daukaus gets good position, lands solid elbows, probably about 4 of them. Maybe the stats are correct. Maybe I'm underestimating how quick this was. It was 43 seconds. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just that few of strikes needed. And then Daukaus lands 4 follow-up elbows, nasty shots. Pereira goes out again on the ground. The ref jumps in, and then Michel Pereira steps right back up. So it's not a good look for a stoppage, but it's a completely acceptable stoppage. He was out from those elbows. And if not, you know, for the referee stepping in, it would have just been Daukaus raining down more elbows on him while he was unconscious. So I'm going to go, well, I'm not going to go with anyone. It's not a prediction. I went with Michel Pereira, and I was wrong. Daukaus pulled it off. Short notice upset in his re-debut in the UFC. We move on. Zhang versus Austin Hubbard. I took Zhang to win this fight by decision. Zhang wins the fight by decision. I did think he was a bit too much of a favorite. I did think this was going to be a competitive matchup, but Zhang did do his thing. Rounds 1 and 3, Zhang showed improvements in his game that we haven't seen before. Listen, man, Austin Hubbard, people can laugh about that name being an opponent of someone, but he's been very tricky for a lot of fighters. He's tough, he's durable, he's got great cardio, he trains at elevation, he's well trained. He's not very talented in any given area of the sport, but he's a tricky, hard to finish, well-rounded dog of the sport, you could say. And Rongzhu did okay in the first and third round. Round 2, I definitely gave to Austin Hubbard. So I don't understand the 30-27 scorecard here. I definitely gave round 2 to Austin Hubbard. I thought he landed a lot of good shots. Started pressuring Rongzhu. Rongzhu started to miss a lot of his shots in round 2. But yeah, I really thought round 2 went to Austin Hubbard, but it was still a close round. I understand that. I just thought Hubbard was landing some decent punches. Round 1 and 3, though, pretty clear to Rongzhu. He was landing good right hands over the top, good inside low kicks as well. Sometimes he got a little bit over throwing with the overhand right, and in round 2, that's where Hubbard was able to defeat him because he kept going for the same thing. But then in round 3, he started mixing it up again, changing his entries, changing the way he was looking for that right hand, landing some of his leads as well. And Rongzhu found it. At the end of the fight, he points to the ground, does a bit of a Holloway moment. Hubbard backs up, doesn't want it. Rongzhu's too fresh, too clean, and had a really good third round for himself, landing a couple of decent shots at the end of that Holloway-ish exchange. That's how you do it, Waldo, Cortes-Acosta. We got to stop this pointing to the ground thing. None of you are going to do it like Holloway, so stop it, okay? If you're not willing to do it like Holloway, don't fucking point to the ground in the octagon. It's cringe, all right? Rongzhu wins the fight, though. Good decision win from him. 29-28, as I said. We move on. Charles Johnson versus Lona Kavanagh. Charles Johnson was a plus 210 underdog here. Plus 210. He should have been a slight favorite, and I said that. What the fuck were these odds? I don't care if Ilia Topuria said Lona Kavanagh is going to be the next champion. That means nothing. Look at their fights. Charles Johnson wins the fight. Nasty KO. And people are getting on to me because I tweeted. I always delete my mid-fight tweets. But I tweeted, Lona Kavanagh's looking sharp as fuck in this first round. And he was. Lona Kavanagh was looking like he was looking like a level above Charles Johnson. 2 levels above him in round 1. Johnson barely landed a shot in round 1 of this fight, which I'm actually annoyed about because I had a thing of him landing more than a certain amount of significant strikes, but he didn't land any in the first round, so it's not the best, but he landed some. You know, he picked at Lona Kavanagh a bit, but Lona Kavanagh was on a different level in round 1, landing a bunch of big shots. I think he could have done less. If you're not going to get a finish, you can do a bit less, and you're already way ahead. Fighters need to realize how far ahead they are sometimes, and how you need to do so much more to get a 10-8. Take the 10-9. Whether you're edging around or you're way ahead, it's a 10-9. Realize that. But these are the things that you learn as you go through the sport. And Charles Johnson is the ultimate learning opponent for flyweights, he'll teach you lessons. Charles Johnson will teach you lessons. Straight up, you have a good first round, cool. Can you keep it up round 2 and 3? No. No, you can't. You're doing 3 big slams in round 2 that have achieved nothing. That's achieved no damage. No control achieved. 3 massive slams in round 2. And then you could see it on Lona Kavanagh's body in round 2. Once the 7-minute mark hit, around the 7-minute mark, you saw Lona Kavanagh start to... And immediately I thought Charles Johnson's going to break him and finish him. Right here. That's what happened. Charles Johnson puts him away. Dude, Charles Johnson knocked out Joshua Van, one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. Had to take him as an underdog here. Plus 210, Charles Johnson over Lona Kavanagh. You've not been watching Lona Kavanagh versus Jose Ochoa on a week's notice. I know he looked good against Felipe Dos Santos. 58-51 on significant strikes. Just keeping it real. You know, Lona Kavanagh is a very good fighter. 29-28 across the board in that fight with Felipe Dos Santos. You've got to create more of a gap between you and these bottom feeder opponents at flyweight before I say you're going to beat Charles Johnson, who's very good and is probably going to go on to like get robbed by Asu Almabayev next. That's just that'd be the ultimate Charles Johnson way of doing this. Fucking fraud check Lona Kavanagh, knock him out, and then go into a fight with fucking Asu Almabayev and fucking get robbed of a decision. That's probably what's going to happen next here. If we're seeing any trend in Johnson's career, and then Asu Almabayev will test positive for PEDs or some shit. Who knows what's going to happen, but Johnson's underrated, man. Since 2024 February, he's had 6 fights. He beat Azat Maxim. He lost 3 fights in a row at one point. Ode Osborne? Cody Durden? I mean, what the fuck is this sport sometimes, huh? Lost to Rafael Estevam, but I thought he got robbed. He did way more damage than Rafael Estevam in that fight. And then there's Azat Maxim he beat, which is a good win. Clear win over Azat Maxim. Then he beat Jake Hadley, decent win. Joshua Van, great win, KO'd him. Mudaerji, great win in hindsight. We'll get to Mudaerji's performance in a bit. Lost to Temirov. I thought he could have won that. Very close fight. Very close. But no, I don't think he could have won that. He lost rounds 1 and 2. But round 3 he had a really great round. And they're saying that Temirov tested positive. So who knows? And he just beat Lona Kavanagh. Round 2 KO. So yeah, it's tough. Lona Kavanagh, man. I said it going in. I said he would look flawless in round 1. But round 2 and 3, he is asking to be broken by a capable fighter. And that was my prediction for this fight. He's asking to be broken in rounds 2 and 3. Because the way he takes off and starts thinking, oh, now it's time for me to get my breath back between exchanges. And it's just when Kavanagh gets hit to the body, it's different, man. Like, he was hitting Charles Johnson with big shots all throughout the first round. And they all got a reaction out of Charles Johnson. But Charles Johnson never faltered in his pose, in his stance. You know? Whereas when Lona Kavanagh gets hit, immediately we're doing the foot shuffle thing. And we're starting to do like crazy footwork, prancy footwork with our hands down by our waist. We're not in a stance anymore, you know? We're not shuffling backwards and shifting out of the way or anything like that. Now we're doing little like skippy movements on the outside while being a little bit outpointed. And then you're going for huge slams on Charles Johnson that get no damage. Like, it just really was an example of like, sure, like Lona Kavanagh's probably a bit more talented than Charles Johnson at this point in his career. You know, he's so fresh in his career and he's already that good. But Charles Johnson's a better MMA fighter. He's a better fighter. Like, he's tougher. He's more durable. He's composed. He's way more composed. There's a lot more that comes into being an MMA fighter than looking really technical. Lona Kavanagh is incredibly technical. But anytime you see his fights after round 1, completely different guy. He couldn't be that completely different guy against Charles Johnson. Ended up getting KO'd in round 2. And I could see it. I think a lot of people could. After like the first minute of round 2, you could see the body language difference in Lona Kavanagh. And he got chinned. Maybe he would have survived a bit longer and took a bit more of a beating if he didn't get chinned. I'm not saying that he like got chinned because he broke. Like, he got chinned because he got caught with a massive right hand. But yeah, I could just see him. I could see the shift of the tide, like, obviously in front of us. I think Lona Kavanagh went from like a minus 900 favorite at the start of round 2 to like a minute in, he was like minus 150. So even the odds makers were like, holy shit, this guy's coming unraveled. So, you know, Charles Johnson gets the big win. Big plus 210 underdog. Stupidest odds I've ever seen. Those are the underdogs I like taking, you know. Johnny Walker should have been an underdog. You know what I mean? I'm not taking him. When I see an underdog where I'm like, those odds are just straight up incorrect. Those are the underdogs I like to pick. So I thought that was a good one. We move on. Maheshate versus Gage Young. I went with Gage Young by decision. Close decision. He ended up winning a clear competitive decision. 30-27. I had it all 3 rounds to Gage Young. There was an argument for maybe him losing the 3rd round. An argument for him losing the 3rd round, I thought. It was a close round. Now I'm trying to find the stats here to give me a reminder of some of the round-by-round moments. But I think it was just Gage Young peppering Maheshate with shots. Round 2, I thought, was the clearest round of the fight to Gage Young. G-Money, as they call him. Word up. West Saeed, homeboy. G-Money, Gage Young. He looked great, though, dude. He looked good. He looked composed. There were some times where I thought he was, in order to land often, he was taking a lot of steam off of his shots. But sometimes when he was doing that, he was taking so much steam off of his shots to land that he lost a lot of intensity. And I think he kind of switched off focus-wise sometimes. So he nearly got clipped with some big ones throughout this fight. And I think if he would have just not taken that much steam off, you know what I mean? Catch yourself sometimes when you're doing that. When you're peppering stuff and you're like just throwing it out there, remind yourself in between the exchange, like, this is still a fucking UFC fight with a real fucking UFC fighter. So, you know, sometimes he would lose a bit of focus and get cracked with some big shots. But other than that, other than the cut in round 1, I don't know. I had him winning every single round. I thought the 3rd round was the most competitive of the 3. But even then, Gage Young was the one mixing in takedowns and getting some control time here and there. And even in round 2, I'm surprised Maheshate survived round 3, because when Gage Young took him down at the end of round 2, it looked like Maheshate was like broken. Like the takedown, he like crumpled on the ground pretty much. So I thought that was going to be like a 3rd round finish. But hey, credit to Maheshate. He stayed tough. He gave Gage Young some problems to worry about in the 3rd. But Gage Young just too good, too well-rounded. And again, I took him by decision to win, and he wins by decision. We move on. Tayiilake Nueraji versus Kiefer Crosbie. Now, this one I'm going to have a hell of a take about. I took Nueraji to win by 1st round finish over Kiefer Crosbie, who I think is shit. I don't think Kiefer Crosbie is a top-level fighter, right? And I think you saw that in this fight before the illegal knee, which we have to talk about. But you saw that in this fight before the illegal knee. It's not like Tayiilake Nueraji was, you know, losing and illegally kneed him and got the win because of it. But, fucking hell, that was a brutal illegal knee. And 2 points taken away is fair enough. Can we not get a fucking rest moment for Kiefer Crosbie? Like, we have 5-minute timeouts sometimes for eye pokes. He can't get 5 minutes. I know Kiefer Crosbie maybe said, "No, let's go, pal. Put me back in there, pal." I don't know what he said, but like, even if you're the ref in that situation, Mark Goddard, I think it was. Yeah, it was Mark Goddard. He officiated it as well as he could. You know, if Kiefer Crosbie wants to continue, but I think something needs to be put in where, even if it's not what the fighter wants, the referee can say, "No, now it's over. You've got to have a 5-minute break." I think Goddard should have stepped in and said, "No, it's over. You got a 5-minute break." Or the referee should look at how bad the illegal knee was and go, "Yeah, this is getting called off as a fucking DQ. You just flatline KO'd him in round 1. Not flatline, but he got KO'd by that knee. This wasn't a Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling acting session. He got fucking blindsided by that knee, flush on the face, and fucking sunk and crumpled on the ground like he was out. Couple follow-up shots, that's a finished fighter. You know? And then they restart the fight. Kiefer Crosbie gets back in there. Tayiilake Nueraji goes right onto him again, pushes him to the ground, and just smashes him with elbows. Fight's over. 1st round KO. The crowd's cheering. This is what I'm talking about. The crowd's cheering that. That'd be booed anywhere else in the world, but the Chinese do not care. Okay? They really don't. So you know what? Let's go Johnny Walker. They really did not give a fuck, dude. They probably didn't even know it was illegal. Kiefer Crosbie, though, I will say this. Don't think he's the best fighter in the world. Thought he would lose this by 1st round finish or 2nd round finish. Never thought anything of him. Respect. Have to give him respect. I don't know if it means he's going to get another chance in the UFC. I don't know if this means they're going to definitely keep an eye on him and maybe have him on a contender series at some point. Who knows? But for Kiefer Crosbie, they're probably going to cut him from the promotion at this point. But you got to give him respect. I wonder if they'll give him one more. Because he did not need to fight on. He could have ruined that moment for Tayiilake. If he was a pussy bitch, let's just call it what it is. If Kiefer Crosbie was a bitch deep down, it would have been found out in that moment, and he could have ruined Tayiilake and Nueraji's moment. And I don't even think he would have been a bitch. He had every right to not continue, but he's a savage, so he continued anyway. Like, I'm not winning it like that. I'm fucking getting back up and going out there. So, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but that's got to count for something, right? He didn't need to do that. He did not need to do that at all. And he got done dirty here. One thing, though, he kept going for submissions off of his back. Don't work in modern day MMA. Stop trying to submit people off your back. I don't get it. Fucking retards. Anyway, tough guy, Crosbie. Respect to him. We move on. Mudaerji versus Kevin Borjas. I took Mudaerji to completely school Kevin Borjas for 3 rounds, 30-27. And Mudaerji completely schooled Kevin Borjas for 3 rounds, 30-27. I said that Kevin Borjas wasn't going to be able to land a glove on him. I said this was Kevin Borjas was a 1-2 merchant, straight punch merchant against a guy with way more range than him. It's a recipe for disaster. So I took Mudaerji 30-27 here, schooling, and he schooled Kevin Borjas 30-27 decision. This was boring, but it was a striking match, so I'm allowed to say it was boring without people getting on to me about, go watch something else, go watch something else, I'm retarded, go watch something else. No, it was striking, so no one's going to tell me go watch it like wrestling or anything like that, because it's one martial art, just like wrestling is one martial art. But when you wrestle, you're mixing the martial arts, even if you only wrestle. But when you're striking, you're not mixing the martial arts, even though you're probably doing a lot more overall in terms of different martial arts. It's all good, though. Yeah, these guys just weren't mixing the martial arts, you guys. Well, how bored, dude. No, you got to really enjoy this. No, it was all right, though. I thought it was decent. It's one of those ones where you can just appreciate the level of it. It didn't have hype, so it's not like it had like this super fight of the year, which was the Chimaev Duplessis situation. It was like, this is the biggest fight of the year, and then that fucking inbred, ugly fucking cousin fucking rodent just stinks it up for 5 straight rounds. No, this is one where Mudaerji was landing wheel kicks, spinning back kicks to the body. He was styling on him, you know. He was styling on him, but I wish he would have put his foot down and maybe gone for a finish, but Borjas just was a heavy bag for him out there, man. Like a waddling heavy bag that just wandered into shots. Yeah, interesting stuff. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which is Sergei Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Wow. What the fuck happened to Sergei Pavlovich? Waldo Cortes-Acosta, dog shit fighter. Fat fucking heavyweight with a jab against some other fatties, but then he goes up against fucking Sergei, who's got jack shit for him, other than a couple jabs, I guess. But Sergei, man. I knight him Sergei, okay, of the UFC. He may rise now as Sergei of the company. But Sergei Pavlovich, dude, Aspinall genuinely took all of his confidence, you know. All of it. Like, he was and he's been finished by Overeem before, but I guess he took it on short notice and he got taken down and then beaten up, and, you know, it wasn't a flat line. You know, he got TKO'd. It was a bad TKO, but I guess he just saw that as, I wasn't prepared, you know? But I think he was fully in the fucking prime of his life going into that Aspinall fight, and he got smoked badly going in for the kill. He's not been the same. But it's still enough to beat these fat fucking retards at heavyweight. But he's not the same anymore, right? He really isn't. But he still won. What do we talk about here? Round 1 could have gone Waldo's way. You know, he landed a couple of decent shots. He was tapping with some kicks. Not much happened of anything in round 1. But I know Waldo landed I know what happened. Waldo fucking basically intentionally headbutted him with the forehead to the chin of Pavlovich. No idea how Pavlovich took that, by the way. Like, Waldo Cortes-Acosta drove his forehead into the chin, upwards into the chin, the tip of the chin of Pavlovich. You can watch it on the replay in slow-mo. No idea how Pavlovich just ate that shit. So maybe that made him hesitant, because he had a fucking dome to the jaw immediately in the fight, which never got picked up by the ref. And then Waldo Cortes-Acosta stuffs the takedown by grabbing the cage and illegally cheats there as well. So that was kind of bullshit in round 1. So I guess you could give Waldo the round, tappy. And then round 2 and 3, Sergei started landing better shots, landing his right hand a bit more, getting a bit more busy in the combination whenever they would swing in the pocket. Landed some good body kicks in the third, some good low kicks in the third. I wanted the low kicks way earlier to the outside leg. I think that's a massive weakness of Waldo Cortes-Acosta's game, and it got figured out in round 2 and 3 here, but that was ready to be figured out in round 1, and I think it always is in Waldo's fights. He never checks low kicks to the outside leg. But Sergei Pavlovich did it. Wasn't the most exciting at all. We can say that because it was a striking match, and there's no fucking people pretending to be hardcores when they're just inbred people cheering for their guy. So we're allowed to say this was boring because there was no grappling, but heaven forbid Sergei would have got a takedown, in which case we'd have to say this was entertaining, of course. But yeah, it was pretty dull, man. I don't know what's happened to Sergei, but he's still good enough to beat these guys, so it's a weird one, isn't it? He's still good enough to beat all these guys, but it just feels like he's become 50% of the fighter he once was, and it's still enough to beat these fat tards. I fucking hate heavyweight. Moving on to the co-main event, Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. I took Aljamain Sterling to win this fight by decision. I didn't even fucking know it was 5 rounds, okay? And I still took Aljamain Sterling to win this fight by decision. Of course, we had Brian Ortega at the weigh-ins, just looked fucking abysmal. Don't get jabbed up and schooled in the boxing by Aljo for 5 fucking rounds. Don't make featherweight look that fucking bad. Aljo's got the worst hands at bantamweight, man. He's had the worst hands at bantamweight for years. And now these guys, and Aljo didn't even have to shoot once. There was no like threaten the takedown, and now Ortega's thinking differently. Ortega just straight up fainted at range and did fuck all. Like, he threw nothing. In the 3rd round, he started letting go a little bit. But in rounds 1 and 2, like, we have to do a bit fucking more than that. Top level UFC featherweight. Can't make the weight class. Can't show up in disciplined shape. Number what in the world? I'm sorry. Really, really solid performance from Aljo. And I'll say this with Aljamain Sterling. When you look back on it, how is Chimaev above, whatever, Volk pound for pound? Sorry. I just saw Chimaev at number 4 pound for pound there. Fucking hell, man. I hate these fucking ugly inbreds. Either way. Aljo. What are we looking at with Aljo here? Bantamweight division. No, featherweight division. Brian Ortega's number 5 in the world. That was number 5 in the world. I know he looked bad at the weigh-ins, but this seems to have been the trend with Ortega recently, and I have no idea how he's clung on to that ranking spot for as long as he has. Honestly, Aljo deserves a title shot over Lerone Murphy. And I know that Lerone got the highlight, and they're probably going to give it to him anyway, but Aljo's probably earned it more. He's a former bantamweight champ. He was on his way to being the bantamweight GOAT before Merab steamrolled ahead. If he beat O'Malley, he would have been the bantamweight GOAT. Unanimously considered it by the MMA fan base. So, I don't know. I feel like Aljo's done a lot in this sport. And he's fought a lot of top guys. I don't know how Lerone Murphy does against anyone ranked. Who is Lerone Murphy? So, Lerone Murphy has a win over number 8 Josh Emmett, but he doesn't have any wins over anyone in the top 7. I don't know, man. It's an interesting situation at featherweight right now. I feel like the division is like... they have some fun prospects right now with Gene Silver and some of the others, but I feel like... oddly, like, the top contenders are looking weirdly awful. You know, the top contenders of old, that is. So I guess it really is just a changing of the guard of featherweight. But yeah, Aljo picked him apart with the boxing, jabbing his fucking face off for 5 fucking rounds. Chin up in the air every time from Aljo, by the way. Every time he threw a punch, he reared out of the exchange with his chin way up in the air. Throwing punches with a concerned look on his face like Lerone Murphy at a fucking weigh-ins. You know what I mean? Just really concerned look on his face. The whole time he was throwing, it was like, dude. But he still managed to do it. And he picked apart Ortega as I thought he would. And he grappled in the 4th and 5th to sort of like mitigate pressure from Ortega, I felt like. Like, he didn't want to shoot in on Ortega and like get guillotined going for a single leg or a double leg. So instead, he just sort of waited until the clinch came up or, you know, any of that. So it was 50-45 across the board. Clear win, dominant win. There wasn't much grappling, so we can say it was a bit boring. Ortega landed 2 significant strikes in round 1 at a 7% accuracy. Landed a bit more as the fight went on, but it's not even like he got really badly fucked up. He just didn't do anything. And Aljo was landing spinning elbows on him. Couple of them. I think he landed 2. He landed 1 really good one right with a tricep. I mean, he actually looked like he hurt his arm when he did that. They were touching it in the corner, but yeah, Aljamain Sterling schooled him, beat him up on the ground in moments as well towards the end of the round. Smart work from Aljo. It was a smart work fight from Aljo. Why the fuck was it 5 rounds? There's no reason for that to be 5 rounds. There's genuinely zero reason. That ruined the momentum of the entire card. If that was a 3-round fight and then we got into the main event, it would have ended the card so much better. We would have said, you know what? Aljo fucking schooled him for 3 rounds on the feet. But once you get to that moment where someone's schooling, it drags on when the guy doesn't make any fucking adjustments. You know what I mean? It drags on. It just does. It drags on when you know the other guy has no potential of finishing the other one. So I just think that needed to be 3 rounds. No clue why it was 5. After the weigh-ins from Brian Ortega, no idea how they kept it as 5. No idea how they kept that shit as 5 rounds after the weigh-ins. But Aljamain Sterling schools him, and I'll say this. Let me load up Aljamain Sterling's resume real quick. Because he has a really good resume. And he keeps picking up decent scalps. Even though you're going to look at this back and think, it was a washed Ortega. He's been washed and he's never been good. He gets beaten up every fight that he takes against top comp. So Aljamain Sterling's resume is some wins early doors. Gets into the UFC, loses 2 split decisions to Caraway and Asuncao. If you scored the Caraway fight based on today's standards, you'd score it to Aljamain Sterling. Asuncao, he got fucking robbed. He won the Asuncao fight. Beat Renan Barão. That's a great win on his resume. Augusto Mendes. Lost to Moraes by KO. He got kneed in the face. Beat Brett Johns. Beat Cody Stamann. Beat Jimmy Rivera. Beat Pedro Munoz. Beat Corey Sandhagen. First round sub. Beat Peter Yan once. Let's be real. Beat TJ Dillashaw. Asterix, I know, but beat Henry Cejudo. Lost to O'Malley, but now has moved up and beat Calvin Kattar, beat Brian Ortega, had a really close fight with Movsar Evloev. He's had a hell of a schedule, and he's winning the majority of them. So, Aljo's picking up a sneaky resume. And if he does touch a belt at 145, heaven forbid where Lucas Tracy's going to put him. But I would agree. I kind of have to agree. You know what I mean? I know I make that joke, but that would be true, right? If he touches a belt at 145 and wins a top 5 fight in the meantime, that'd be nuts. That'd be nuts to see. So, yeah, Aljamain Sterling had a good one. Good for Aljo, dude. He had a decent fight. Didn't take any damage. Good for him. We move on. Johnny Walker versus Zhang Mingyang. Johnny fucking Walker. One of the fighters I will never pick to win fights. And even if he goes on to another one and fights Jan Blachowicz, I ain't picking him. I ain't picking Johnny Walker to beat Jan Blachowicz. He'll get chinned. But this time he did not get chinned. Zhang Mingyang had a good first round. And one of the reasons why he had a good first round was because Johnny Walker shot a takedown immediately into the round and pulled bottom position by failing the takedown. Zhang Mingyang stuffed the takedown. Johnny Walker pulls bottom position in round 1 immediately into the fight. Okay? Insane decision from Johnny Walker, but that's what he did. Zhang Mingyang stays on top, lands a couple of shots here and there-ish. Not really anything too big. Johnny Walker gets back up. They strike. Johnny Walker is secretly landing quite a lot of low kicks. That needs to be mentioned. Secretly, even though Johnny Walker's, a lot of his follow-up shots once the fight was getting finished were to the head, I think if you take away the finishing sequence of punches, I'd say about 80% of the shots landed, 75% of the shots landed from Johnny Walker with that low kick. I rewatched it, and I was watching it back and thinking, you know what? He actually landed a lot more than just the ones in round 2 that you noticed. He landed a lot of low kicks on Zhang Mingyang. Mingyang landed him back. He had his own low kicks. He landed to the body. He landed to the head. He caught Johnny Walker on the chin a few times. But you saw after the grappling in round 1, there was another grappling exchange in round 1 as well, where Zhang Mingyang stuffed another takedown. Mingyang's arms, he started like unloading them like Henry Cavill in that fucking Mission Impossible film. He started like unloading his biceps with the lactic acid. And I could see him when he was up against the cage with Johnny Walker, even though he was doing the smart things and he was kneeing him to the body really well. You could see his face. He was like really puffing air in round 1 from a lot of heavy grappling. So even though I think Johnny Walker was also kind of exhausted, and if Mingyang would have somehow survived round 2, I reckon Walker would have been fucking kaput cardio-wise after that ground and pound. Zhang Mingyang got figured out in round 2, man. The low kicks started adding up. I think Walker ended up landing 3 of them in a row and shut down the legs of Zhang Mingyang. One thing that exists that will always exist in MMA. If you have a giant set of calves on you, they're waiting to get deadened by low kicks. More bone to muscle percentage on the calf, in my opinion, as of recently that we've seen in the UFC, is better for dealing with low kicks. If you have too much meat on, there's a good balance. If you have too skinny of legs, you're getting them snapped up. I get that. If you have too meaty of a calf, you're just getting that whole muscle deadened up by anything that lands on it. I think there's a good happy medium where there's a bit of bulk on the calf, but there's also some leanness to it. And those seem to deal with calf kicks a lot better. But Mingyang's fucking giant fucking gorilla calves, those massive meaty calves, I feel like they just, the weight, the muscle, there's more muscle to feel, you know? That's the sting. The muscle, the meat of the calf is what's getting deadened and brutalized. So there's just more of it to hurt. And Mingyang folded in round 2, went down, and then Johnny Walker started raining down shots. I will say this, yeah, with Mark Goddard. Shoot me a message on Instagram, brother. Did they hold you at gunpoint backstage and tell you give Zhang Mingyang every chance you can to get back into the fight? Because we've seen Goddard fucking zip in there in title fights to stop fights. But Mingyang Zhang's getting every opportunity. Bear in mind, it's not just the ground and pound to the head. He's already on one fucking leg before it. So you've seen this guy go down and can't walk. He's a crippled fighter. Now Johnny Walker has landed 40, 30 significant strikes on him over and over again. You're letting him fight back that much? Please tell me. I will never reveal it to anyone, Mark Goddard. Shoot me a little DM and tell me. Is there expectations put on you as a ref when you're in certain areas? Because, Jesus, Pereira Adesanya won compared to that. Listen, I know Adesanya was about to get flatlined. Let us see it, for fuck's sake. Robbing us of seeing that cunt on the ground, flatlined out cold. You know what I mean? That way, these guys aren't even thinking about us. But either way, Johnny Walker wins. He pulls it off. Hits the worm afterwards. What else is going on in this card? There's a lot of cheating from the Chinese fighters. Fingers in the eyes. They weren't being warned. Some of them were. But they needed to warn like every Chinese fighter about eye pokes and all of that. And then the illegal knee happened. They're quite dirty fighters. I'll be real. They're quite dirty fighters. What else was there? Oh, yeah. The translator was like a meme of the card as well. She looked like she was wearing my t-shirt and nothing else. I don't know what the fuck she was wearing. But she looked like she had nothing on below the waist. It's kind of hot. And she had no idea what she was doing either. That was that. That was the whole thing. Most fighters tried to learn a bit of Chinese. That was the card. How did I do on predictions? I did 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, 9-1, 10-1, 10-2. We didn't sweep the whole card, but I went 10-2 and got some decent underdogs. That's it. And I got all the methods of victory pretty correct as well. But I still get comments how shit my predictions are. I've been great. For 6 months, I've been great. I feel like I'm about to take top spot. And everyone's calling me out for shit predictions. Fuck, I can't get the massive ones right. But trust me, the ones no one gives a shit about, I've got them. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Good event overall. It ended strong in the main event. But the main card during the Mudaerji, Borjas, Pavlovich, Waldo, Sterling, Ortega, it deadened the whole card, and we did not need 5 rounds of Ortega Sterling. And I feel like the only reason they did that in the first place was to give Ortega more of a chance, because they know he's a slow starter. Fucking get rid of Ortega, dude. Give Ortega, like, Rebecca or some shit. Give him, like, Chris Duncan or something. Like, I'm done with Ortega. I feel like Ortega's going to leave this fight and fucking waltz his way into, like, a... I don't know why, but like a Yair Rodriguez trilogy. I can so see some bullshit. Like, oh, sorry, Evloev needs a fresh opponent. I can so see some bullshit like that happening. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Get rid of Brian Ortega at the top. He's been pandered there for so long by the UFC babying him. He's not that level. He gets fucked up every time he is. Put him against some fucking bottom feeder or some shit and risk him against an upcoming prospect at lightweight or something, because we can't have this over and over again from Ortega. See you later. Goodbye. Toodle Pip.